Welcome to this CDO Power Circle introduction to the power of Dave. Dave is our DEI advisor and virtual expert. And it's designed to help you get more done, be more in control of your time, and literally have more impact in the work that you do. One of the analogies I've used is Dave is like a hammer. Once you know how to use a hammer, you can build a lot of things with it. You can build a closet, you can build a fence, you could build a wall. So really, it's your imagination in terms of what it is that you're trying to do and how you want to approach it. That's going to give you ideas of how you could use Dave. I'm going to give you some examples, but the usage of Dave is not limited to those examples. Our guest for this program, Simon Schumann, is the AI expert who worked with me to build Dave. So a lot of the workflows that are in the background, a lot of the things that give Dave its smarts, that's Simon. So Simon, welcome. I'm looking forward to having you here and also having your insights added in as we're having this discussion.
Thank you.
So now, what does Dave do? Well, it does a lot of different things, but let me just summarize a couple of things it can do. Dave can help DEI leaders prepare for executive strategy meetings. So if you ever got one of those calls where it's, we want to talk about this topic, legal impact, how to help marketing or how to help recruiting. And we're going to do it tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. And you just got the email at 4 o'clock and you're thinking, oh, wow, now I have to call home and say I won't be in for dinner, or I have to stay in my office and work on this so I can be ready for this meeting tomorrow morning. With Dave, you'll see how easy it is to actually prepare for that meeting without having to do any of those other sacrifices. It can help DEI leaders answer thorny questions. A lot of times you get into situations where you get a question that comes up and you always have access as members to the email where you can send me an email and have me ask the group, or you can ask the entire group. But with Dave, you can actually get the answer at any time that you want. You can get a very quick answer, and you'll see how that works as well. Dave can help your DEI and ERG leaders to devise strategies. So let's say you are coordinating BRGs and you want to put a strategy together for how to, let's say, for example, how they can partner with recruiting, or how they can partner with supplier diversity, or how they can help their community in a particular area. You could throw that into Dave and it'll give you an outline of a strategy that you can use. You can help with specific requests, like, as I mentioned before, how to support recruiting, supplier diversity, or any client-facing business department. And the other thing that you're going to find is that, and this is a feature that I really particularly like, is that you can borrow deeper and deeper with Dave. What I mean by that is that you'll get an initial outline that says, these are the things that you could talk about, or these are the topics. You could take any one of those, copy them, paste them back into Dave and tell Dave, tell me more about this. And Dave will give you more information on that. And then you could take that layer and you could say, you know what, of all these things, there's 2 things here I want to know more about. You can copy those and you can go back in and ask again. So it allows you to borrow deeper and deeper, and it gives you the answer so quickly that literally you could borrow down 2 or 3 levels and only take less than a minute to do it. So I don't know about you. I've been doing research for years, but I can't do that personally. So it really is something that I find amazing. I can do much more, as I said before. So very quickly, what powers Dave before we jump in and look at Dave itself? Dave's versatility and its power is the result of a decade of 21st century and future foresight DEI cutting edge research. So a lot of the research that went into my books, like Supercharge Your ERGs, the new DEI and ERG Frontier, the articles in Forbes, Fast Company, and all these other magazines, all of that has been loaded into Dave's memory banks. In addition to that, hundreds of hours of recorded interviews with top thought leaders on topics such as organizational network analysis, psychology, sociology, speech strategy, planning, debating, deliberating, AI itself as a topic and how it fits into the DEI space, how to build groups. I mean, all of those different experts on topics of bias and so forth, all of those different experts, all of their knowledge that was captured in the recordings of ERG Power Talk podcasts and the Sharpening the Axe programs, all of those in Dave and much more. Future Foresight articles that come out in the Future Foresight magazine, they're all in there. And then there's a powerful large language model that can understand and respond to natural language that then gives Dave the ability to customize responses to you from all that data. So I'm one of the biggest contributors of data to this. And yet many times when I ask it a question, I get back answers that surprise me. And that's because it clips and combines different things, maybe something that was learned 10 years ago, something that was discussed in a particular podcast episode, something that was written in an article, research that was done for something else. It combines it together in some interesting, unique ways. And that knowledge base is continuing to grow. So let's start with some basics on how to log into Dave and how to access Dave. And Simon, is there anything that you want to add to what I was talking about before?
I think you've covered it all. It's just really amazing how it is picking up on all your knowledge that you've put into the database and how it's leveraging the AI to interpret your user queries. And as you say, giving you astounding results that we can't think of sometimes. It's a very, very helpful tool to have.
Absolutely. So let's start with the basics. How do you log into Dave? So logging in, I'm logging in as admin and my password is there. But if someone is coming in, they'll have their own password that's issued to them.
That's correct.
And here I am. Okay. So there's Dave. And now that I'm in this instance of Dave, I can then ask Dave a question.
Yes.
First, once I get in here, I go to new thread. Okay, there we are. So now we're there. And then essentially, once I'm in there, I can ask it any question I want. So a common question might be something like, what is a good DEI practice for driving forward your DEI efforts without bumping into legal issues? Question mark. And then we hit next. It's processing. It's looking at the source. And there we are, driving DEI efforts while avoiding legal pitfalls. Here is the problem as we see it today. A lot of traditional practices focus on achieving a specific number of representation across demographic. That approach can inadvertently lead to quota systems, which are generally illegal. The solution is shift the focus from numerical targets to an equitable process. That means ensuring that everyone has equal access to opportunities. Another problem is the lack of transparency in decision making. Here's the solution to that. Another problem is using language or actions that unintentionally perpetuate some kind of stereotype. Here's a solution to that. Focus on individual merit within the equitable system. Again, the problem is that a lot of people think that by having DEI efforts, it's going to lower standards, but actually it's not. And you can do that by the emphasis that it has in this solution. A regular legal review and consultation is another piece of advice. So it's pretty comprehensive in the answer that it gives across that question for someone who is looking for ideas of what to do in that area.
It was very, very concise. It came out brilliant in terms of the wording. I think it covered quite a lot. If the user feels that it's missed out on something or they want to query deeper, they could actually copy and paste a snippet out of there. And then at the bottom of the AI application, they could write, please tell me more about this particular issue, which I think could be a problem. So if anyone needs to get additional information, they just need to copy and paste something and say, please tell me more about this.
So we talked about digging deeper. I want to show you how that works in terms of how you can dig deeper. So we got that initial outline in that first question. Now watch what happens when we cut and paste and ask another question to take it one layer down. Let's do that. So I'm going to copy this and I'm essentially going to ask it to give me more information on that. So first click on next, and then here I'll write something as simple as, tell me more about this and about the various solution options for this.
Correct.
So we're asking the AI now to go deeper, and I'm going to hit paste in there. So it just pasted that text that I copied. and I hit the little arrow here, and it's processing again.
Excellent. So when you do that, it takes deep dives into your question. So usually it's going to give you quite a broad spectrum answer, and then you can take deep dives and it will give you deep dive answers based on how deep you are drilling into it.
Excellent. So I can go in here now and I can click on any one of these, like for example, legality, and I can repeat that process and it'll just keep burrowing deeper and deeper into that particular topic. So these are the issues that's listed them here, and then the solutions that it has here. And I could take any one of these solutions and I could copy it and say, tell me more details about how to implement this solution. And it will do that. Let's say you want to put a presentation together. Now, that's something that a lot of you do on a regular basis when you're going to be presenting to either fellow team members. Your ERGs do it as well when they're doing presentations about their plans. We have meetings and we put slides and presentations together all the time. One of the toughest things is putting the outline together. And sometimes that takes a long time because you've got to ask yourself, well, what story am I going to tell? As a writer, I know how difficult it is when you're staring at a blank page and you want to put an outline together or start writing a chapter or an article. Well, the great thing about Dave is you don't have to start with a blank page. You could take your idea or what you're trying to achieve and you could put it into Dave as a question, ask it to put an outline together for you around that topic, and it will do it. I'm going to show you how it does it right now. I could say something like, for example, write an outline for a presentation on engagement with a diverse workforce.
That's a great question, isn't it?
Yes. And I think that's one that often will come up. So it's thinking, and now it's writing, and it's continuing to write. And essentially what it's doing is it's writing a presentation outline, and it's telling you not only information that you can use in that presentation, but also gives you a title. And it says the power of an engaged, diverse workforce. Start with compelling statistics or an anecdote showcasing the positive impact of an engaged workforce. And if somebody wants an anecdote that might already exist in the database, all they have to do is clip that, throw that back in and say, give me a couple of anecdotes that are examples of something like this. Highlight the shift from performative to genuine. Again, this could be a talking piece, or it could be a part that you can expand on by going back into the database, asking more questions, and then briefly introduce the key strategies. So understanding why, connecting DEI to the business goal, using data, real world examples, strategies for engagement, moving from rhetoric to action. And it talks about some of the different things to do in training and development, and creating accountability, creating a culture of belonging, rethinking policies and practices, measuring and communicating progress. And then another section here on engaging all employees as a collective effort, which I think, again, is great. It has a conclusion: build a more equitable and engaging workforce. It's asking the person who is going to give this presentation to essentially reiterate the importance of moving beyond performative DEI to genuine engagement, provide some call to action. And you can also clip this and turn around and go back into the AI and say, give me a couple of examples of calls to action that might work here. And so you could use the AI to help with that, and then have an end of message. So I think it took less than a minute, and I now have the outline. All I need to do is go out and flesh this out a little bit and get some graphics, and I'm ready for my presentation.
Exactly right. I think the speed that it's doing it at and giving you such in-depth information is absolutely amazing. I think it's going to be a very, very useful tool for everyone using it, just basically because of the power to take deep dives and really sort of very drill down deep into things like give me some more call to actions. I think that is an absolute winner. I think it's got so much value, and at the end of the day, you can sort of sit and scratch your head and say, what can I ask it? Then when you start getting answers, you're like, okay, there's so much more you can actually dive into just by reading its output. So, yeah.
Yeah, it can continue to take you deeper and deeper. You could take any one of these topics. You could copy them from here, put them on a document, then you can go back and you could take subsections of it, go back to the AI and say, take me deeper on this, give me more information on this. And you can literally build in a few hours what would have taken you a few days and late nights, even with the help of an assistant, just by using this tool. You could probably have the full presentation with slides before lunchtime if you start working on it early in the morning, which is fantastic for people who are in this space that is so busy and often so under-resourced. It's really a huge boon. So, preparing for a big meeting in a few minutes. Again, this is like very common. Like sometimes you'll get a call and it's like, tomorrow we're going to meet and we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about how do you tie this to marketing, or how do you tie it to recruiting, or how do you tie it to, you name the topic. And we're going to have the CHRO and the head of sales or the head of marketing or whatever. And we'd love to have a conversation with you about this. Now you've got to prepare. Prior to Dave doing this the old-fashioned way, you're talking about a lot of research work, probably tons of emails going out to people. I've been the recipient of emails like that, like, do you know anything about this topic? Because I need to have something ready and so forth. Well, with Dave, here's what you can do. Let's take a look at that now. DEI leaders often get a request in an email that says, we're having a meeting tomorrow morning to discuss, for example, how we can connect our DEI efforts better to support our marketing efforts of our products or services. So I'm just going to put that in there. What can DEI leaders do to support their company's marketing efforts? And let's see what the AI does with that question.
An amazing question. You don't think about it very often, to be honest, and that is such a good question.
And there you go. And you've got your answer here. And it just took just a couple of seconds and it started giving answers. First of all, obviously, you have to understand the marketing goals of the organization, meet with marketing teams, understand their target audience, campaign goals, key performance indicators, etc. So that's something that I've been asked to come to a meeting and talk about what I'm going to do to address that area. I could say, well, on my plan, the first thing is I'm going to meet with the marketing people, find out what their KPIs are, find out what they're focusing on. And then after that, I'm going to look for ways to position DEI as something that can give them a strategic advantage, maybe with a new market and helping them reach a wider audience. I can also take this, as we did before, I can clip it, I can put it back in the AI and say, tell me more about ways of doing this so that I have a laundry list of things that I can offer in this meeting. Champion authentic representation. Look at marketing materials and ask yourself, are these authentic looking or do they look performative? Do they look like they're just virtue signaling? And again, I can clip this, put it right back in the AI and say, give me an example of the difference between something that's authentic and something that looks performative. I can use inclusive language, as it says here. And again, these are all examples of areas that you can go right back into the AI and ask for more, and then leverage data insights. So on and on and on. But this entire page is something that someone can now take, copy and paste to a document. They can turn around and then go deeper into certain areas or put plans together to fill out areas that involve things like meeting with marketing experts. And they're ready to go into that meeting with at least the beginning of a strategy.
Absolutely. And I think you could actually start asking it to match certain ideas together. So you could say, could you please give me some marketing ideas that are DEI based? Can you give me some KPIs that our marketing team should be looking for? And that would be the next step in terms of that department strategy for the morning's meeting. So they can pretty much go as deep as they want to go. So you can actually start doing different permutations within your queries. And the AI is powerful enough to work it all out and figure out what you're asking. And as you say, it's less than a minute. It probably takes us longer to type the query out.
That's right. So as you're looking at that piece that we just looked at now, as an ERG, BRG coordinator or manager, you could sit down and you could say, what about this particular strategy? How would we take this and put it to work? And you could clip pieces of it and put it back into the system again and say, tell me more about this particular aspect. I mean, you literally have all of this research information that is DEI specific that's in there. And literally, You don't have to go back and say to yourself, oh, I heard something in the ERG Power Talk podcast, but which episode was it? Or which Sharpening the Axe meeting was it? Or what magazine was it? What article, what book, what clip? It just brings it all together, and it can recombine it in some really interesting, unique ways that'll provide you solutions that maybe weren't even in the original material that was put into the system. So again, another advantage that this offers. You can solve for specific challenges in industries. Like a lot of people say, well, I'm in the healthcare industry, or I'm in the motion picture industry, or I'm in the insurance industry. And you can say, what about that? Well, it can actually get really specific. We're going to use a healthcare example here. Watch this. You can say, my business is health and hospital who's got patients from a variety of diverse backgrounds. What are some things that I can do in my field to use DEI to attract more patients and provide them better service? You can write that query, and that's going to give you a whole different set of answers, because the AI is then going to pick and choose based on that query. So that might be one where I'll say here, how can my healthcare hospital organization leverage DEI to provide our patients with better services? And then I enter that, and it's thinking, and there it goes. All right. There it goes. It's just whizzing along, and that's a nice piece of long copy. So if we go in here, have a diverse staff, make sure that the linguistic and cultural needs of the different patients can be met by the staff that you have there, provide cultural competency training to the staff, identify and address any disparities in healthcare, do community outreach, improve patient experience and satisfaction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And again, all of these, you can clip them, put them back in and say, give me some more examples of this. And then you'd be ready for that specific meeting where you're in that particular environment and you're going to talk about how DEI can support that particular environment. So that's what Dave can do now. At this point. In fact, as soon as your credentials are available to you, you'll be able to do everything I did and more, limited only by your imagination of how to use this. But there's more coming that we're going to be adding to Dave. So one of the things that we're going to add to Dave is the ability to do instructional design and delivery. So what that means is that you'll be able to go in there and create a training program for yourself or for other people in your company.
So what we've got planned is that when you will be opening up the course module of Dave, effectively you will be doing some onboarding prompts, which basically becomes permanent context across all of your communication in that particular model. So it would have, like your name, your goals that you want to achieve with DEI. What group of people are you going to be training? What is their experience with DEI? What is your experience with DEI? Looking at probably about 8 to 10 onboarding questions so that the course is highly customizable. It's extremely tailored to your needs according to all of Joe's data that he's got up for all the years. So it's actually going to go and query all the data according to your context and actually generate an amazing course that you could take or that you're going to implement. Now, where you're going to implement it, for how long is it going to run for? Just a deep dive, and you can actually be quite specific in your onboarding inputs. You don't just have to say like, oh, I'm doing it at my company. No, you can go very deep and say, I'm doing it at my company for 25 people. And this is the breakdown of the labor force. And so it can also, it's going to ask you as well, how long do you have to implement this? How long do people have every day to take the course and do the coursework? And it goes along and it works out exactly what to do according to exactly what you needed to do it's going to go and do it for you.
And so literally you've got a robot that you can program to be a trainer in a number of different courses. And I know a number of you are operating in large organizations. You have, a limited budget and you want to reach a lot of people. You want to be able to provide content on a regular basis to them, but you may not be able to have a live trainer there all the time. Well, this is an alternative that will become available to you in the next version of Dave. And the second thing is virtual coaching for you and other DEI leaders, your ERG leaders. And coaching essentially is a process that, unlike training, coaching is not about teaching you a particular topic as much as it is about helping you work your way around addressing a particular opportunity or challenge and tapping into your capabilities as well as the collective capabilities of others who can help you. And those others are all contained inside Dave. So Dave can turn around and give you a prompt that says, tell me what the issue is, and end with, how do I blank, blank, blank? A nice little CNN headline there. Very similar to what I would do if I were in the same room with you. And that question opens up the general topic, or you say, look, I'm trying to address this particular challenge or opportunity. It'll come back and it'll prompt you with more questions. What have you done already? How does that work for you? Or where did it fall short? And the reason it's doing that is so you don't end up with a laundry list of things that you've already done. It's helping you to narrow down your focus to things that are net new, that are going to add to the repertoire of how you're trying to address this particular challenge. Then it'll ask you, well, what are some of the other things that you've thought of doing in the future? And what are your concerns about those? Or what are your expectations of those? And then it'll say, let me add a couple of other things. And it'll add a couple of other things that you did not include in your list. And then it'll ask you, of all the things that we've talked about, which ones would you stitch together as the best approach for this? You might even cut that and put it back into the AI and say, give me some suggestions, and essentially come away with a strategy that says, okay, these are my options for addressing this. This is what I've already done. I'm going to try something different, and this is what I'm going to do. And so literally, it gives you that tool that helps you to continue to develop your skills and your ability to address different types of issues and challenges, sort of like weightlifting for the brain using Dave.
That's a very, very powerful coach. It's also going to work on your context, your onboarding inputs. And so it knows exactly what to coach you on. It's going to know, because you've told it some of your weak points, some of your strengths. It's going to know exactly how to formulate the simulation and run through it conversationally with you. At the same time, it's going to role play. It can role play anything that any situation that you needed to role play. So it's effectively taking on two roles. It's your coach and something that you're going to role play with. And the whole simulation, it can either come in and say, how about this idea? Or how about this idea? And at the end of the day, it could give you a final score, for example, on how well you did in terms of that particular coaching session. So I'm impressed particularly with the power of the role play and being a virtual coach.
Literally, you've got somebody to bounce your ideas with on demand when you need it. And it's got the ability to simulate these different types of roles and to help you prepare. In some cases, you may want to test drive a particular way of saying or doing something before you actually do it live with other people, and you can do that with Dave. So in closing, what I like to say is, don't get left out, because Dave is an indispensable ally that DEI leaders need today. If there's anything that I hear all the time from DEI leaders is how harried they are, how busy they are. They've got one meeting on top of the other. They don't have time to breathe. They take work home, get last minute requests, or they're asked to respond to something very quickly, and the meeting is tomorrow. No human being can do all that work like that. We need more tools in order to be able to respond to today's 21st century environment. And Dave is that tool. Dave gives you the ability to effectively be able to meet all of those demands quickly effectively, productively, and still have enough time to keep your sanity.